We're now learning more details about the suspect in last night's shooting at the dinner where the president was in attendance on the dais. Bill Melania was at the dinner. He has more on the investigation. And Bill, I saw one of your posts, and you have to point out right now the fact that Secret Service has not been funded in 71 days. You wrote that earlier.
Yeah, Maria, good morning to you. DHS has been unfunded since the middle of February. So, yes, some frontline Secret Service agents have been paid during that time through other means, but a lot of their support staff haven't. In the meantime, we're learning more about the suspect here, 31-year-old Cole Allen of Torrance, California. I'm told by multiple federal law enforcement sources familiar with this investigation that after he was arrested last night, he made some initial comments to investigators where he admitted that his intent was to target Trump administration officials. Now, our colleague David Spunt just talked to some federal law enforcement sources. He is being told that Allen checked into that Washington Hilton hotel on Friday. So that would be the day before the White House Correspondent Dinner, and that while he was initially talking to investigators after his arrest, he is no longer being cooperative. We do know that search warrants were served at his home in Torrance, California last night, as well as his hotel room at the Washington Hilton. They're going to be seizing any electronic devices, trying to figure out how long he had allegedly been planning this and who else he may have been in contact with. David reports that his family members are currently being interviewed and that right now investigators are currently talking to credit card companies to go through his purchases and figure out where he got that shotgun, where he got the handgun, and again, he brought 2 knives with him. So what we're being told right now, Maria, is yes, initially he was talking to investigators, told them his intent was to target the Trump administration, but he is no longer being cooperative right now.
All right, Bill, thank you. Bill Melania live in Washington this morning. And as you just heard, law enforcement says the shooter apparently was a guest at the Washington Hilton. He had multiple weapons on him, including a shotgun, a handgun, and knives. Joining me now is former FBI agent Nicole Parker with more on this ongoing investigation. Nicole, thanks for being here. What is the FBI looking at first, in your view?
Well, Maria, initially, the FBI is going to obviously be responding to the crime scene. They're going to be coordinating with the Metropolitan Police Department, with the Secret Service, with all federal, state, and local partners. This is an all-hands-on-deck approach. The evidence response team was immediately deployed to the scene to process that lobby where the incident did occur. They will be gathering ballistics. Those things will be sent off to Quantico for extensive research, and no stone will be left unturned in this investigation. I can tell you that right now. The FBI will be the lead investigation, but they will receive assistance from all of these other agencies. So again, they're looking at the lobby. Then they are going to the hotel room where he was staying. They have to process that hotel room, gather evidence from there as well, while simultaneously across the country, they are getting search warrants and have executed search warrants on his home. And I can tell you that when you go do a search warrant at a home, a lot of times you find evidence in that home that allows you to then say, look, we now need to go to a storage unit and execute a search warrant here. So it leads you down a path, and then you continue to execute search warrants. Behind the scenes, the FBI is gathering what we call preservation letters, because what we know is that people always try to take down the proof of their evidence and things that they did. No, that will not happen. The FBI will have preservation letters that will preserve every single shred of evidence as it was when this occurred. The FBI will also be working extensively to interview witnesses. I guarantee you many people in that ballroom will be interviewed at some point. They will also be interviewing family members, associates, former classmates, colleagues. And we've discussed this, and I've heard it. The FBI obviously attempted to interrogate this individual after he was Mirandized, and apparently he is not wanting to talk to law enforcement. That is, quite common, where they don't want to talk to you without an attorney present. But what the FBI is doing is they're building a profile. Who is this person? They are going through all of his digital devices, building a digital footprint, taking in any tips. If you have any tips, you need to call 800-CALL-FBI. No piece of information is too small. And I think it's important to note the DOJ's important role in this, because the FBI gathers the evidence, DOJ prosecutes. Judge Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, said very boldly last night, initially he will be charged with Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111 and Title 18 U.S. Code Section 924C. That would be an assault on a federal officer and using a firearm to commit a violent crime. But Maria, those are just the gateway charges. I guarantee you there will be multiple charges coming down the pipeline. This suspect is alive, and he will face the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, I mean, people are wondering if, in fact, there are terrorism charges coming as well. But I guess, Nicole, there are a lot of questions this morning about how it is possible that something like this could happen when you have the commander-in-chief, the president of the free world, in a ballroom, and somebody can actually get into the room right outside carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and all of those knives. How does that happen?
You know, it's quite alarming, but like President Trump said, and this suspect in particular, he's a graduate of Caltech University. He has a master's in computer science. This guy is extremely smart, okay? He graduated in mechanical engineering, but again, the U.S. Secret Service has a zero-fail mission. And what they did last night, it was a massive event with the President of the United States, many cabinet members, and the press, over 2,000 attendees based on what I understood.
Right.
This individual, he rushed the magnetometer, but I'll tell you, the Secret Service acted swiftly and decisively. And that agent, they exchanged fire, and he took a round to his ballistic vest. We are so grateful that he is alive. This is what law enforcement does every single day. They are willing to put their lives on the line for us and for President Trump and to keep us safe.
Yeah.
But again, this venue, this hotel, Maria, extremely difficult to protect that. It's a very large location. It's a very vulnerable location because you have people staying in the hotel. The suspect himself was staying in the hotel.
Right.
So again, it can be very difficult to protect, but I guarantee you that there will be an after-action review. Maybe they'll discuss things such as widening the perimeter next time. And I do think that the ballroom is an extremely important piece to this puzzle.
Yeah.
Having the ballroom would put it in a much more secure location.
Absolutely. And why they are fighting him on this ballroom is just beyond anyone's understanding. But you made a good point in terms of Cole Allen's background. It's what the president said to me when I spoke with him on the phone this morning. He said, you know, have you ever seen the background of some of these assassins? They're geniuses. I mean, this person had a real resume in terms of his background. And that, I think, was what the president was saying. But his resolve is incredible. He sounded calm and very much in control this morning. And as he did last night when he gave that press conference about an hour after the incident.
I absolutely agree. President Trump is strong, he is solid, and he brought peace to the situation.
Yes.
He brought calm. I mean, it's extremely rattling for those of us watching it on television, for those that were present. Yeah. But I have one thing to say. Isaiah 54:17, I'm a woman of faith. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. And we have seen this over and over with President Trump. He has been protected, literally.
Yes,
and we know that it doesn't always work out that way, and we don't always understand why. But he has been protected, and I do believe that he is exactly right.
Yeah.
He is very impactful. If he was doing nothing, they wouldn't be coming after him.
Yeah.
And people are saying, why does this keep happening to President Trump? Well, we know because it's the fiery rhetoric from the left that incites people to act this way.
Right.
But it's also because he's doing things that no other president is willing to do. He's willing to make those difficult choices.
That's right.
Whatever he has to do to protect our country from, you know, taking down Maduro to Iran to all of these things. Only President Trump has been willing to step up to the line, and that makes him a target.
That's exactly right. That is why he's a target. Thank you so much, Nicole. Former FBI agent Nicole Parker.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.